Hello everyone, welcome back to the Organic Chemistry Labs. This is the second semester for the OChem Lab, Chemistry 21-25, and this will be the lab safety lecture. So why do we have to give this safety lecture? We just really want to make sure that you as students understand the importance of practicing lab safety. We want to improve the safety in the organic chemistry labs and make you guys aware of any possible accidents that can occur during an experiment. We also want to make sure that we teach you or that you gain the knowledge about any kind of highly reactive reagents and chemicals. And we want to really stress the importance that we need to keep the lab environment very clean and well organized to prevent any accidents as well as chemical contamination. So here is exactly what we want to avoid. We want to make sure we don't cause some kind of harsh chemical reaction that causes the chemicals to explode in the hood. We want to make sure we understand what to do if we drop a beaker full of some kind of chemical. Of course, we can always prevent this by staying vigilant and just practicing good lab safety during our experiments. So here are two examples of, people that didn't practice proper lab safety. So in 2009, there was a student at UCLA who was working with a highly reactive chemical, T-butyl-lithium. And I guess she didn't know, but T-butyl-lithium is highly reactive, so highly reactive that when it's exposed to oxygen, almost immediately combusts. So she actually ended up dying due to trying to extract this T-butyl-lithium from a container that wasn't properly sealed. Another one was a chemistry teacher in Dartmouth that was actually killed due to exposure to mercury. So again, it's always important to understand the hazards of the chemicals that you're working with. If you ever need to call somebody in case something happens in the lab, here are a couple numbers to call. The easiest one is 911. So if you don't know who to call and you're in a panic, it's always safe to call 911. They will reroute the number back to UTEP and they will send somebody to the lab. You can also call the campus police or EH&S. So EH&S, it's kind of their job to be there for not only the U, but also the TAs in case something happens in the lab. If you're ever in the lab, you can also call whoever your instructor is during that semester, as well as the main office or Maria. So why is lab safety so important? We just want to make sure that the students don't face any kind of adverse health effects from exposure to chemicals or to some kind of organisms. We just really want to prevent the students from contracting some kind of disease while they're in the lab. We also want to make sure that students understand how to work with hazardous chemicals, but also how to work with equipment, because some equipment can be dangerous if not handled properly. If you ever want to know more about proper lab safety, you can actually watch some lectures by EH&S. They provide a good overview of what to do in, many situations. So just to kind of go over the main safety and laboratory rules, always wear safety goggles, and I'm going to stress the goggles. In chemistry labs, you very rarely, if ever, will you be allowed to wear safety glasses. So never get safety glasses. Most chemistry labs work with liquids, and liquids can kind of have an easier time of going through the openings of the safety glasses. So again, always wear safety goggles. Never bring food or drinks into the lab. We don't want to get these contaminated and then you go out, eat or drink something and get sick. And of course, never smoke in the lab. This is mostly for your health. But also, we don't want to cause some kind of contamination in the experiment. Always wear proper clothing, so closed-toed shoes, always wear a lab coat. Just make sure to always cover your skin. No skin should be visible other than, I guess, your face. And even then, we're protecting it with the goggles, at least the eyes. Only work in the lab when work is permitted, so only when a TA is present. Always know the location of fire extinguisher, safety equipment, as well as the nearest exit. Never use any kind of broken or cracked glassware. The last thing you want to do is handle something like HCl, put it into a cracked flask, and then it starts leaking through the crack onto the floor, the table, or God forbid your hand because you're holding it. That's where we wear gloves. But just to avoid it, never use anything that looks like it's cracked. Never ever taste chemicals. We will never be making something that should be edible. As for smelling chemicals, always kind of waft, gently kind of, I guess, push the air towards your face so that you can get a gentle smell of the chemicals. Many chemicals have a very harsh odor, such as HCl, so you don't want to be smelling that directly or you can really mess up the receptors inside of your nose. Again, avoid contact of chemicals with your skin. Wear your lab coat, wear long sleeve shirts, long pants, closed-toed shoes, wear gloves. Dispose of the waste as directed. So we will have different waste containers, and it's important for you to know what type of waste goes into what type of container. Always clean your work area and put stuff away. This is just good etiquette in the lab, but also we don't want to have a messy workstation because it could introduce contamination, or somebody can touch it and it can just cause problems. So always try to keep a very clean area. I guess going back to the waste, know where paper trash should go. That should go in so paper trash that has not come into contact with any kind of chemical can go into the trash can. If it's touched any kind of chemical, it goes into solid waste. Broken glass, however, goes into a broken glass box. And going back to keeping the work areas clean, also keep the balance and prep rooms clean, because we share that area and it's best if we kind of work together and make sure it's clean so that we don't mess up someone else's experiment. So again, some personal protective equipment, goggles, gloves, lab coats, always wear them. When you're in the lab, always wear them. You never take them off. Never take off the goggles from your face. They always stay on. You don't put them around your neck. Don't take them off and put them like on top of your head while you're waiting for an experiment. Always on in the lab. If for some reason you get some kind of chemical into your eye, you can use the eye wash station, which you can see it's either connected to the safety shower or in some labs is connected to the sink. Again, if you get some kind of chemical onto your skin, use the safety shower to wash it off if it was a large area. Know where the fire extinguishers are, again, usually in the front of the lab or by the entrance. And always wear proper equipment or proper clothing. So no open-toed shoes, no short pants. Again, lab coat, gloves, goggles, always. So again, your safety comes first when you're working in the lab. If you don't understand how a new reagent or chemical or instrument works, always ask your TA and we're happy to help. If you need, I guess, further help, you can always arrange a meeting with your instructor or your TA and we can always talk and help you kind of gain a better understanding of whatever you need. So here's just an example of a situation in the lab that's caused some changes. So in 2016, EH&S had reported that there were students in the labs unsupervised. And what this was, it was 2 students who were in a lab unsupervised that had water bottles, I guess in their vicinity, with no eye protection. So this has kind of caused a couple corrective measures. First, students are not allowed to enter the labs until a TA allows them. So never be in the labs on your own. If your TA is not present, it is okay for you to just wait outside the lab until they show up, and then they will open the door and you can enter the lab. So when it comes to keeping the areas clean, here is a very good image of the sink. We don't want any kind of dirty glassware kind of clogging the sink area. If you see the rack full, let the TA know and we'll kind of put things away so that we can clean this glassware and put it onto this rack. We want to make sure this is always empty. So again, don't keep this dirty stuff here. If you do put something here, make sure to at least clean it first. Don't leave dirty flasks and beakers here for no reason. If there's anything other than glassware, such as papers that can be thrown away, dispose of them properly. And always try to clean the glassware so that the next section can use them. Onto the prep areas and the balance areas, keep things clean in here. We're sharing this not only with your lab, but with the next lab that comes in. So if you spill a chemical, let us know and we can help you clean it up. We just really want to make sure that we don't leave this kind of mess, not only for your safety, but also because this can lead to some kind of contamination. Keep stock bottles closed whenever you're not using them. There are actually chemicals that are highly reactive with oxygen, such as that tert-butyl lithium. There are also chemicals that will create some kind of byproducts when they are exposed to oxygen, such as benzaldehyde, something you'll be working with in the next lab section. So again, just keep these closed when you're not using them, just so we can reduce the amount of air that might contaminate the sample. So again, close bottles and make sure to keep the areas clean. The balance areas should always look like this when you come in and look like this when you come out. So always make sure that there are no chemicals left near the balances before you finish in the lab. When it comes to waste, you should become very familiar with these three types of waste or liquid waste. So the first is any kind of aqueous waste that is made mostly of water. And then the next two are organic waste that can be either halogenated or non-halogenated. If for some reason you don't understand where a chemical should go, just let your TA know and we can help you to discard the chemical. We don't want you to mix things haphazardly because some of these reactions can cause an explosion. So here is the waste containers. So you can kind of see the aqueous waste that is completely full. If you see this, let the TA know because it should not be completely full. It should actually kind of be right here. This is when we should be disposing of it. But yeah, let the TA know if you ever see these bottles completely full. Never leave your waste just unattended by the waste containers, expecting the TAs to just dump it. We may have a vague idea of what's in here, but it's just better to not play the risk. If you don't know where this should go, just come to the TA and tell them whatever is in here so we can dispose of it properly. In some labs, you'll be using glass pipettes. These pipettes should never be left in the fume hood after they've been used. Instead, you should get these glass pipettes and put them into the broken glass box when you're done with them, making sure to save the rubber bulbs because they can be reused. If for some reason you weigh out some chemical and you end up using everything that's in the bottle, don't leave the bottle next to the waste. Let the TA know and we can dispose of it properly. So here you can see the 4 waste containers we have in the hood. So this is our aqueous, our halogenated, our non-halogenated, as well as non-hazardous solid waste. I believe in many of the lab stations, there is usually a container for hazardous solid waste. And this is where things like gloves or paper towels that came into contact with chemicals should go. Again, broken glass as well as any used pipettes should be thrown in the broken glass box. When you work in the lab, you'll be sharing a hood with, I guess, another group. So because of this, all of the hoods kind of have a label, 5B, 6B. Actually, I think this should be 5A, 5A, 5B. So just don't try to keep these fume hoods as orderly as possible. Never let this happen where the wires are kind of everywhere. This is just a fire waiting to happen. Try to stay organized, keep your stuff in your station, and try not to mix things around. So here's just an example of a hood that's labeled 3A, 3B. There should only be enough tools for each, I guess, group. So make sure that you have your equipment on your side of the hood. Here is an example of, I assume is a 3A, 3B hood, and here we have the 4A heat block. So this should not be here. It should be moved back to the 4A hood. Every group will have some kind of kits when it comes to their glassware. Be careful with this glass because it is kind of difficult to make and we don't want to break it. If you don't know how to set something up, ask your TA and we can help you set up the equipment. So this is more for us, but at the end of the semester or at the end of a lab session, when we know that we're done with using a product, it's very important for us to kind of throw away those chemicals and clear things out. We don't want to leave chemicals inside of the cabinets unattended, because who knows what can happen when nobody's looking and we come back in a year and something blew up, or I don't know. Just make sure that when we're done with an experiment and we no longer need a product, that we dispose of all of our products back into the waste that they belong to. And that's usually this solid waste container. So that's the first part of the lab safety lecture. The second would be a lab tour. However, I can't really give a tour. So just kind of reiterating the overall goals, we just want to make sure that the students understand the safety precautions they need to take when they're in the lab, as well as any steps they need to take in case accidents occur. If some kind of fire occurs, know where the fire extinguisher is, as well as the fire alarm in case we need to evacuate the building. If chemicals get in your eyes or onto your skin, you can always use the eye wash or the shower. Always know where the lab exits are, as well as the building exits. And try to always understand how to utilize the instruments in the labs. And if for some reason you don't know how to use it, just ask one of your TAs and we can always help you. Finally, just one more time, if you ever need to call anyone and the TA is not present for some reason, you can call any of these numbers.